Hey guys, hello everyone. Today, in the first part of the video, there will be two stories. One is funny, the other not so much. As they say, in the last video I jinxed it. I said nothing was happening on the market, and then boom, just like that. So today we'll talk about that. And in the second part of the video, I'll give some recommendations on altcoins, what I've been buying lately. The video, as always, will be interesting, positive, and useful. Right now it's packed and full of good stuff. A huge like in advance, and let's get started. So friends, now comes story number one, and of course it's a positive one. Since our last video, Alex has managed to make us happy. Let me remind you, we started building our position back in the summer when it was trading at the bottom. I personally wrote a post saying that I'm betting on the fact that the admins think everyone is a fool, and they simply decided to flush out both ordinary people who had already lost faith in the project, as well as the whales, who at that moment suffered major losses. It was at that time that Bybit removed the link to the Apex DEX. Then the CEO of Bybit released a tweet saying that they are working on developing a new DEX. And overall, the information vacuum surrounding Apex hinted that they had given up on this project. Personally, I assumed that too much had been said about this DEX before. Well, all of this is illogical, and could such a black mark really remain on an otherwise spotless reputation? Bybit put their own money on the line, and in turn we saw the result. In a short period of time, API did more than 10 times. It was trading at around 16, maybe 20 cents, let's say even 20 cents, and at its peak, you could have sold it for 240. Overall, that's a 10 times gain. A solid profit with extra multiples. And I wrote on my social media that I locked in a significant portion of the gains at that moment. Did you lock in your profits at the peak then? Because when we see such growth against the market, it makes sense to protect your profits, and you can simply move them into other coins and even try to make 2 or 3 times more there. And that would be equivalent to making 20 or 30 times your money on the original coin. Because when a particular coin grows against the market with such crazy multiples, nothing stops it from dropping back down if there's any turbulence in the market. Maybe not all the way to the bottom, but it could easily lose 2 or 3 times its value. From the high, that profit won't be 10 times anymore, but more like 5 times or 3 times. There's definitely something to compare it to. In this case, I'm reminded of the old saying, from hate to love, or to put it another way, from growth to decline is just one step. When I joined the Apex community chat in the summer, it was just hilarious. You could have made a bunch of memes out of it. There were insults, people shouting and screaming that they'd all been deceived, blaming someone for everything. When I joined the chat during the price surge, it was the opposite picture. Everyone was shouting that Apex was everything, that it would be $5 or $10. In short, don't fall into these kinds of traps. Always make decisions with a cool head. And accordingly, if you've made such a profit, know how to enjoy this victory. To sum up, I know that my community got into this coin because many people wrote to me in private thanking me. They made good money. So let's hope, friends, that this is just the beginning. The upcoming alt season, the meme season, will delight us with fantastic gains. And now let's move on to the second story, which will go down in the memory of crypto enthusiasts as one of the worst days. For those who traded futures, these events happened on October 10th. It was a Friday evening. I was already getting ready to go out somewhere for a smoke, maybe to the hookah bar, maybe to a club to dance. I was already heading outside and decided to check the CoinMarketCap website. Well, just in case, why not check what's going on with the coins? What if something suddenly shot up like Apex did by 10 times? And then, bam, I see that some coins have dropped by 70%, 75%. I was just, well, you get the idea. I decided to go back home, put everything else on hold, and without even changing clothes, I opened up my laptop. I didn't try to figure out what was going on. I just decided to throw all the free stable coins I had at that moment into it. Basically just went for it, as they say, all or nothing. At that time, I increased my position in the WOW coin, buying it at 22 to 23 cents. But when I looked at the wicks on the charts for those coins, honestly, I was shocked. Coins were dropping by 70, 80, even 90%, and on Binance it even crashed all the way down to 1 cent. But if you think that someone could have bought back significant amounts of the coin right at the bottom, you're mistaken. Because after talking to many people, I found out the following. There were errors popping up on the exchanges, there were some limits, and basically you couldn't buy in large volumes. Of course, like some people managed to buy something, but overall, I think it was all orchestrated by the exchanges and market makers. Basically, it was a kind of cartel collusion to shake people out, rob them, and take their coins at the very bottom. Now let's figure out what actually happened. Many people blame old man Trump, saying, what did we release? A tweet about new tariffs against China, and then everything. It all kicked off. But if you look at the investigations, which there are plenty of already on Twitter, there was a loophole in the Binance system, which they either allowed themselves or accordingly, maybe it was some kind of mistake they didn't know about. Here we can only guess. In general, the wrongdoers, or maybe the masterminds, the people who control this market, found a loophole in the system, specifically in Binance, and bought up the USD coin. This is a stablecoin that I hadn't even heard of before, and then in turn they sold it on October 10th for about $80 or $90 million worth. Then this stablecoin dropped from $1 to 65 cents, which of course triggered the first liquidations totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. And then after that, this cascade of liquidations continued with other coins, and then other exchanges got involved. Yes, because it all works. Through some automatic algorithms on the exchanges, market makers started pulling liquidity from the order books, and then we saw such prices. And of course, there were those people, so-called insiders, who went short before this drop and made hundreds of millions of dollars. Who were they? Interesting question. Well, think about it yourself. And as they say, Dad, go ahead, everything's ready. On that day, something happened that was impossible to imagine. This really wasn't just a black swan event. It was like black swans arrived in flocks and decided to devour the crypto traders who were trading futures, because many people had stop losses set. Naturally, when such a flash crash happens, stop losses don't work. And accordingly, the exchanges liquidated people at the very bottom wicks. This all happened in just 10 minutes. So even those who were trading futures carefully and kept their spot positions on the exchange as collateral simply lost everything. In my opinion, this is robbery. It's truly the Wild West out there. And unfortunately, this is what happens in our times. To sum up, in simple terms, the trading game should look like this. Fairly speaking, some trader placed a long bet, like some coin is going to go up. Another trader placed a short bet, like it's going to fall. And accordingly, someone wins, someone loses, someone makes money, someone loses money. But in reality, what we actually see is the following picture. Traders are playing against the exchange. And the exchange, in turn, is like a casino, the croupier, and even a card sharp who can see all your cards. And it's not just the exchange, but also the market maker, judging by the information that has become publicly available. And then basically, the exchange or the market makers sit there and think, so, who are we going to fleece today? This group of people or that one, and your task is to figure out how not to end up in the group that's going to get fleeced. So clearly, this is not about 50-50 odds. Well, on October 10th, to put it simply, we saw that the exchange, Binance, other exchanges, and market makers, and basically, this whole cartel conspiracy just dumped everything on zero and took people's money. Because those who were in short positions at that moment, there were reports that large positions were somehow forcibly closed by the exchanges, some kind of error or something like that. And accordingly, all the long positions of most traders were simply liquidated. In general, that's the kind of times we're living in. My condolences, my sincere sympathy to those who suffered from these actions. Let's move on to the second part of the video, namely to the altcoins, which I hope will finally please us soon. So, the first coin I bought more of is Avauta, which I mentioned in the first part of the video. Let me remind you, this is an old ancient project. It used to be called EOS, and at one time people called it the Ethereum killer, but unfortunately this title hasn't gained any real strength so far. This year it underwent a rebranding and the coin was renamed Avauta, and not just for show, so let's hope that all this is not for nothing and that soon we'll see a bull run. At the very least, my position in this coin is just waiting, but in general, there's a saying, an old horse won't ruin the furrow. And looking at projects like XRP or even those anonymous coins, which personally I haven't held in my portfolio, and over there people have started waking up to Cash Dash. And maybe soon, or at least in my imagination, all of this has already happened, and soon it will be Volt's turn. The second coin in which I continue to increase my position is, let me remind you, one where we previously managed to make several X's on this blockchain project, after which other altcoins and BTC started to correct. And right now it's trading more or less at its all-time low, around $3, just a bit over that. Just recently there was news that they entered into a partnership with the largest mobile operator in India, called Jio, which has an audience of hundreds of millions of people who, in turn, want to somehow implement crypto technologies, and for this, they will be using it. Specifically, the blockchain and the pass in the long run. The more significant partnerships like this there are, the closer we get to the time when we'll see this coin take off. That's exactly what I wish for every holder. The third coin, which I mentioned in the previous video, and I'm also continuing to increase my position in, is called Linea. In my opinion, this is one of the strongest projects out there with a reasonable market cap and a huge audience. And there are influential people behind this project. Maybe they have plans to send Linea to the moon. I really hope so. The fourth and fifth coins are, of course, you guessed it, meme coins, and how could we do without them? It was in this sector that we also managed to make some good money back in the day. And even if some coins ended up being scams or rolled back, there was still profit overall. For example, Pepe and Floki more than made up for some other unsuccessful positions. So after the drop on October 10th, I decided to increase my position in Hippo. All this time I was buying this meme coin, which is the flagship on the SUI blockchain, and after that it managed to do a couple of X's, maybe even a bit more. But now it has dropped back down to more or less a record low, if you look at CoinMarket. Okay, so overall I built up my position. Hippo isn't traded on any super liquid exchanges like Mexi, although it's actually listed on BingX. But no, there aren't any huge trading volumes there. Yes, right now this coin doesn't have much volume, but maybe in the future it will get listed on Bybit or somewhere else. Well, at least that's what I imagine. If that happens, it could help the price skyrocket to the moon, or even if it just returns to its previous high. That alone would already be a 10 times or more. The next meme is basically a shitcoin. Well, at least that's how it's behaving right now. The coin is called Bells. I bought it earlier and it even did 2 or 3 X's, after which it crashed to the bottom. The story goes like this. This is the very first meme coin in the world, which came out even before Dogecoin. Well, as you know, Dogecoin is a coin that has already made its early investors happy. But in the case of Bells, I had never even heard of it before. It somehow appeared in this cycle. And indeed, there is some kind of connection in that this project was created many years ago. Well, again, these kinds of stories are popular in the community. If someone decides to pump this project, then in turn, it could at least shoot up to its previous highs, which would already be more than 10 times, or even go to the moon. But again, there is increased risk here, because at the current price, around 14 cents. Next, there are the SMAX listings and then some other exchanges and scams. Or, on the other hand, it could be the comeback of the year, like what happened with SADA, and accordingly, you could make some extraordinary profit. From time to time, I throw in some small amounts there, hoping that maybe this bet will pay off. But the last coin for today also seems to me to be something like a shit coin. Port 3, back in the day, also did pretty well on it. It was possible to make about 3 times, maybe even 4 times, and after that, the coin went to feed the fish. And during the drop on October 10th, it fell by about 60%, which I wrote about on my DeFi channel about my shitcoins. So accordingly, we bought this coin there, and now it has bounced back by about 30%, maybe even 40%. Overall, you can pay attention to it with a small amount. If you don't have Port 3, this project is some kind of network for, and in general, it's something related to this hype topic among investors. There's no WF labs, it's all hype. Market makers, well, if they don't decide to dump this coin into a scam, then, accordingly, there's hope for some kind of recovery. Maybe not to the all-time highs, but hopefully for a few X's. This event will happen. So guys, leave your feedback in the comments. How did you like this video overall, and was it useful to you? Write what you think about the altcoins I mentioned. Should we expect to the moon or to the no? I'm interested to read your opinions. If you liked the video, if it was useful to you, give it a big like, subscribe and hit the bell. There are links to my Telegram channels in the description. You definitely need to be there. Thank you all so much. Thanks for watching. Love you, hugs, take care. Bye.